Hello and welcome to the Warhammer preview show, The Mortal Realms Reforged. My name's Lewis and I'll be your host for this extra special show, bringing you all the latest news from the Mortal Realms. I'll be checking in with the wonderful folks at the Warhammer studio to see what they've been conjuring up in this brand new edition of Age of Sigmar. The Mortal Realms will never be the same again. So without further ado, let's get things started. The elite champions of the Mortal Realms have been hurled down by the God King himself. I'm joined by Robin, Phil and Daz from the Warhammer Studios to chat all things Stormcast Eternals. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
No worries. So let's kick things off. What do we know about the Stormcast Eternals in this new edition?
So we're seeing some new folks come out this time around, the Ruination Chamber, alongside some classics, the old Warrior Chamber guys, Liberators and Prosecutors. So the Ruination Chamber are pretty special. They have fought and died time and time again. Every time they get reforged, they lose something. And over time, they become more and more effectively like a weapon, like the mask and the hammer, rather than a human being that they once were.
With the new miniatures from the Ruination Chamber, how have you gone about sort of tonally shifting that kind of from a design perspective?
Well, we wanted them to feel much more brutal and much heavier, so we've faceted the armour more, and you'll notice that they're layered up more. And they've got the parchment, which actually carries their deeds on them. We've got the heavy cloaks on them as well. And we've added new weapons we've not seen before as well. So there's something new, something different, something heavy and gritty that we've not really tapped into with the Stormcast too much in the past. So we've got some new characters in there as well.
Yeah, we've got the Lord Terminus, of course.
Lord Terminus.
Yes,
I mean, he's very, very striking. You notice him straight away. And then we've added some Memorians in there as well.
Those Memorians they're kind of like a squire is to a knight, but they're there to connect these Reclusians to their history and to their humanity.
And normally they're the sort of characters you see in the background in artwork, for example, but we wanted to put them in. We just felt it'll reinforce the character and the narrative of the miniatures, but also scaled the miniatures really well. So from a miniatures point of view, if it was their first time that you saw a Stormcast, you'd think that was the size of a man.
Yeah.
But that's the size of a man, so it really does put them in context as well and show how great and powerful that these new Stormcast are. So, yeah, it was a fantastic set to work on. The whole team did a great job designing those miniatures. So.
Yeah, that's great. So we've got a different storm host now in the Hollow Knights as well. So what was the process of bringing those new miniatures to life?
We've seen our very shiny Liberators, forefront, the poster boys of the Rangers. And now how do we get these kind of more grittier feel to it?
Yeah.
So that's what you'll see in the paintings, the texture that has been also sculpted, has been reinforced with that paint to make them have that little bit like, these have been not locked away and forgotten about. That's very much, they're very much still part of the units, but they're saved for those when things like the Nor has like really kicked off.
Yeah.
These are the ones that dragged out. So how do we reinforce that? So you'll see that with some of those darker tones and the much more tarnished metals. There's a lot of exploration into how do we represent that in the paint.
That grittier feel.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what can players expect in the box.
But on the Stormcast side, we have almost like two small forces that have allied together. Effectively the Call to Action guys, the classic Warrior Chamber guys, and then the Reclusians and the Ruination Chamber who've come out to join them, and together, link their shields and maybe, just maybe, hold back that ridiculous amount of Skaven that's pouring across the plains. Not only that, you also get a story, effectively. You get the story of this fight of the war front that is across the east of the Parch. You're learning a bit more about the journey of the Stormcast. We're not at the end yet, but we are seeing them in their sort of autumn, I suppose. These men and women only have a few more reforgings, and then that's them. They would lose themselves completely.
For me, I think the whole thing just makes the Stormcast way more appealing. As a painter myself, as a hobbyist, I'm really looking forward to painting some up with all those new textures and things to play with and everything as well. And just the tone of them's changed so much as well. They're just really exciting, the whole set.
I think the box it gives you much more depth to the Stormcast. As we were saying, we're used to seeing the Liberators. They're still exciting, so we've given them this update with their weaponry, but also with the memoriams, that extra kind of texture. We've not seen this before, so it's just gives a much more deeper view of like the life of a Stormcast.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Robin, Phil, Daz, thank you so much for popping in to chat to us about the Stormcast Eternals. We really appreciate it. Don't go anywhere, guys. We've got lots more coming up right after this. Chaos strikes back in an endless swarm of teeth, claws and matted fur. Yes, the diabolical Skaven are here to gnaw away at the mortal realms. I'm joined by Sergei, Phil and Max from the studio to chat about all things Ratmen. Guys, welcome to the show. So let's jump straight in. What do we know about the Skaven in this new edition, and what makes them so much more horrifying than ever before?
So we're seeing them in their billions, literally billions of Skaven are coming out of this thing, and they're all hissing and boiling and pouring over the lands. What we're seeing in this box set is, like, imagine the camera zooming in to one part of that huge nation-spanning battle line. So we're trying to emphasise not only the Skaven have still got loads of fun character to them, they're still treacherous, cowardice, little guys that would just stab you in the back and look at you, but they also are quite horrifying at this point. They're on their best day, and there are just so many of them.
And so from a painting and sort of sculpting design perspective, how have you kind of married those two things together?
What we're trying to accomplish basically is to introduce new elements that make them look more wretched, more disgusting, more vicious, but at the same time being faithful to the legacy of the range, all the key elements that makes them look unique and special, what we call the visual language, all those little thingies, but, you know, with a new touch by using the new techniques and new technologies that we have on our reach right now.
Yeah, that's great. So in terms of painting as well, that must open up some real opportunities.
Definitely. One thing that we did really early on with coming back to Skaven again after so many years was to really kind of sense check, like if they're in these dank environments, they're not living their best life, they're not getting all their nutrients, you know, they probably wouldn't look that healthy and that happy. And we're trying to really convey that and pick up where the sculpting is left off and dial it up to 11 with the painting, essentially. And that's across the entire thing, just really digging into like what makes them look really sinister, and like how can we bring that believability to what like the core essence of a Skaven really is.
Yeah, and we've got, as you were saying, like the range is absolutely huge in terms of those new Skaven and some of the classic kits as well. So talk us through some of your like personal favourites.
The Gracier, I think, that's a big one for me. And I think because of the legacy of that archetype, like there have been Graciers pretty much as long as there have been Skaven, and there have been different representations of that throughout the years, and to see that follow through into this new, modern, in my opinion, ultimate version of a Gracier is super exciting, and to be able to work on that is a dream come true, really.
I really loved painting Jezzails when I was young, and the idea of the Skaven sharpshooter, because they're cowards really, and they want to be able to make a difference, but preferably from way at the back. Yeah, exactly. They're just really lovely little duos, and the guns are different this time as well, and a bit more technologically advanced in places.
How about yourself?
Well, my personal favorites basically are two, the Clan Rats and the Rat Ogres.
Yes.
I love the Clan Rats because they are the embodiment of everything that Skaven society is. They are wretched, they are ugly, they are disgusting, but at the same time they are fierce. When we were considering in the design studio how to make the Clan Rats, we were considering all those elements, those visual language that I mentioned before, but at the same time, we're trying to consider the customer experience. Every single Skaven Clan Rat is made of only two pieces, two parts, and because all the textures are very graphic and very simple, even though the model can look very busy, it's actually a pretty simple experience to paint. So with a very limited palette of colors and with even the fewest of the skills of painting, you can achieve a great result with them. And about the Rat Ogres, I love them because as a Skaven collector myself, I was waiting for a new kit for ages, and finally we've got those beautiful models that also come with several options. You can build them in different ways. This time along, when designing the Rat Ogres, they are a mixture of, gorillas and rats. They are a perfect mix between bipeds and quadrupeds. So when you look at the anatomy, don't expect big pectoral muscles. They are just weird and strange.
That's great. It's sort of like the hulking beasts. You've kind of created these sort of like...
And they are a bit more dynamic. They are like running, advancing in a menacing way.
Yeah.
So they are more aggressive and
And it's great that you talked about sort of like the user or painter experience in terms of keeping that stuff quite simple with its textures. But one thing that I really want to know is how have you married that together in terms of the Skaven? There's so many clans sort of coming together, working together, not working together, stabbing each other in the back. How would you marry that from like a paint perspective, perhaps?
Yeah, I think having an army that is so chaotic and broken up in a way where these different clans are represented, it makes it unique, and it gives it a different kind of flavor to a lot of the other factions in Age of Sigmar. It says something about them on a personal level.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of use these cues like the warpstone that's speckled across all of the models, or like just the fur textures and the skin to help tie the army together. And then specific pieces of rags and cloths and like the right icons in the right places can tell that secondary like underlying story of like, oh, these are actually from this part and these guys are from over here, and they're kind of working together right now, but they're not just one big happy family.
It's just this beautiful anarchic horde of nastiness pouring towards you, and I think it's going to be so much fun to play on the battlefield, to tell stories with, and just to paint the guys who put so much thought into it. It's an absolute tour de force of a box set.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, about that, I remember now that there was some quality very, very unique on the original Skaven set. When you put them all together, they are different sizes because one is more crouched, the other one is more standing, and that created that feeling of horde that works like rats normally do in real life. They work. And we're trying to imply that in the new models. So every single clan rat is a different size, not because they are badly made, but because we are trying to, recreate that effect of they moving like a swarm of big human rats.
Yeah, it's that level of detail that makes them so sort of like kinetic and dynamic as well, which is really lovely. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you ever so much for popping in to chat to us about all things Skaven. I'm super excited for them to scurry into the new edition very, very soon. Don't go anywhere, guys. We've got lots more announcements coming right after this. A brand new edition means a brand new core book and much, much more for the Age of Sigmar. I'm joined by Phil, Matt and Ben from the Warhammer Studios to peruse through the pages that make up the Mortal Realms. So, we chatted a little bit about this before. You guys have decided to go with a little bit more of a mortal eye view for this brand new core book for the new edition. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got this very God's eye view in Age of Sigmar 1 and 2. Really great stuff, mythic foundation for Age of Sigmar, but lately with Dawnbringers and with the core book we have here in Scaventide, we're seeing the boots on the ground, we're seeing people, actual people like soldiers, tavern keeps, the artillerists, the wizards. What are they up to and how do they see the mortal realms? And that's fascinating, actually. That's given us loads of variety and texture to our stories.
You're getting that sort of like lore tapas, aren't you? Sort
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
bits
exactly.
here, little bits here and there, opinions and that kind of thing. It's really, really lovely. So let's chat rules then. So this is a really big shift in the rules. It's sort of a kind of ground up rewrite of the rules, as it were. And talk to me about some of your kind of focus points with those kind of changes for the new edition.
So with the rules this go around, we really had three main goals. The first was to make sure that the game was easy to learn, but still very difficult to master, right? Kind of the hallmark of a lot of good games.
Yeah.
So you have less systems to learn, but kind of more skill to master them. The second big focus for us was on kind of building on that interactivity, making sure that both players are active and engaged in every turn and phase of the game. And then the final goal was, really focusing on making every battle as exciting as it can be, and having these kind of closely fought battles. There's a lot of interesting counterplay, interesting shifts within the game, and mechanics like the underdog mechanic that kind of help bring those games closer together and result in those really exciting finishes that we all remember for years to come.
Yeah, amazing. So we've also got the Fire and Jade book as well as the core book with this new edition. What is that? Tell us a bit about that.
So the Fire and Jade book is all the rules you need to play Spearhead for every faction.
So it's really fun just reading through that book. It's a beautiful book, and kind of discovering and getting inspired by different factions, saying, "Oh, they sound pretty cool. Maybe I'd like to. Maybe I'd like to play them."
You've got to watch out. Going through Fire and Jade, you will see something new that you're like, "Oh, that would be really. I like it." I'm trying to do all the destruction ones at the moment, so I'm just focusing on destruction. And it's hard to just do one,
Yes, of course, yeah. So talk to me a little bit about some of your personal highlights in this new edition.
For me, it's the section we have on the Mortal Realms themselves.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, so how would we learn information? Well, we'd probably be there talking around over a meal or at the pub. So we've written from the perspective of Callus and Toll, talking about how the realms work. We've then got necromancers explaining how the realm of death works, and actually they secretly quite like Nagash, but don't tell the witch hunters. So you're getting the almost like you're hearing from the mortals themselves.
Well, it's all the little bits of art and the artifacts and
this is it.
it kind of takes you on a journey through. It's almost like looking at a travel book or something, right? Where it really
the lived
takes you
experience.
throughout, and you get these ideas. Really immerses you in the realms.
Yeah, we're really happy with it. It's got a beautiful gatefold, fold-out map. You get to see the cosmos if you want to really zoom out and see how the metaphysics of Age of Sigmar works. So we've tried to cover it all from the top to the bottom.
That's lovely.
One of the really exciting things, you also have the GHB. So for the first time, we're including all of the contents of the GHB in card form. So really fun stuff, and you can just jump right in and start playing.
Lovely. Well, guys, thank you ever so much for popping in to chat to us about the core book and lots of the stuff that the new edition offers us as well. I'm sure everyone cannot wait to get their hands on it very, very soon. A whole host of fresh releases and some wonderful miniatures to gaze upon too. Don't forget, you can let us know which releases you're most excited for by hitting us up on any of our socials. And you can remind yourself of everything you've seen after the show over on the Warhammer Community website too. But that's not all, because we've got lots more coming up, right now in fact. I caught up with the Warhammer studio about Age of Sigmar's brand new way to play, and lots more.
Spearhead is a brand new way to play Warhammer Age of Sigmar. It's fast-paced, well-balanced and easy to get started, making it ideal for all players. Join us as we take a look at this exciting game mode. As the mortal realms are engulfed in mayhem and violence, Spearhead forces are dispatched far and wide to seek out ancient sites of power and keep them from falling into enemy hands. Will you take up the call to battle and lead a Spearhead force to victory? In Spearhead games, players engage in small-scale tactical battles fought on a compact battlefield, meaning you can set up a game even with limited space. Games use specially tailored rules to ensure that every battle is an exciting affair that comes right down to the final few rolls of the dice. In Spearhead, players use a fixed set of units called a Spearhead Army that has its own rules. Each of these has a corresponding boxed set that contains all the models you need. Whatever army style you like, you'll find a Spearhead to match. Choose one with a small model count to get going quickly, unleash an entire horde, or pick an army with a stunning centerpiece miniature. Spearhead battles are fought on realm battlefields, and each side of the board represents a different realm. Ghyran, the realm of life, and Aqshy, the realm of fire. Every Spearhead army has a set of regiment abilities and enhancements that you select before each battle. This means you can easily tweak your army every time you play, making each game different. Try out new things, or look for different ways to beat your opponents. Spearhead games are quick to get going and always closely fought. But you'll still need to think tactically to outmaneuver your opponent, defeat their army, and come out on top. As the hour of ruin dawns, muster your Spearhead. But will you fight to save the mortal realms, or to damn them to destruction?
Age of Sigmar's new edition is on the horizon, and with it comes a new way to play. I'm joined by Jimbo, Matt and Ben from the studio to talk all things Spearhead. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, no worries, absolute pleasure to have you. So let's dive straight in. What can new and existing players expect to experience with this new way to play Age of Sigmar?
So they can expect a small format game, play it on a coffee table. You can play it in an hour, so it's super quick to play once you've learned the rules. And there's so much replayability in it as well, with the board being double-sided, and the twist decks and things like that.
Spearhead really leverages the new modular structure of the rules. So Spearhead only uses the core rules. So it doesn't use any of the advanced rules modules. And that means that it's really, really easy to learn. You just have to read, the few pages of core rules covering the basics of moving and fighting using abilities. And then, you read the Spearhead Battle Pack and you're right into playing. And the cool thing is that, when you get into playing, you actually kind of learn and discover a lot of the advanced rules. So you get kind of an introduction to a lot of those advanced rules modules that it's a really smooth transition going into the larger scale game.
To really help with that, we've got War Scrolls specifically for Spearhead, and within that we keep the stat line and the weapon profiles the same between that and when you play larger Age of Sigmar. So there's a real nice correlation, a step-by-step way of playing. So players will get to know these things really easily. And then to keep Spearhead a little bit more smaller and easier to read, some of the abilities have been tuned just for Spearhead.
And I imagine with some new ways to play, create some really exciting new challenges for the studio. So talk to us a little bit about some of the mechanics that you've utilised to create some real close combat on the battlefield.
So first of all, we've managed to create a system which we call the twist system. So at the start of each battle round, players will draw a card from the twist deck, and that have a really cool effect that will apply to the battlefield just for that battle round. And this combines with another mechanic we use called the underdog. The underdog is the player that has the fewest victory points in that battle round. So that can change during the battle, depending on who's winning and who's not at that point. And with the twist, the underdog will typically get an enhanced effect that both players have, or they'll be able to actually apply the effects of the twist. They can choose where it goes, so they can tactically decide how to make it a bit better for them, get them back into the game, maybe put them ahead of their opponent, but then next turn, their opponent will be the underdog, and they get to do the same thing back to them.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, and the cool thing is the twists are themed to each side of the board. So it's a double-sided board that you get in the set. One side is themed around Ghyran, the other around Aqshy, and each side of the board has a correlating twist deck. So all of the twists are also kind of narratively very themed to the board, where maybe you'll have more healing or ensnaring vines in Ghyran, where in Aqshy objectives might literally explode into fire and burn everyone on them. So it's really fun things, but really, really helps to pull those games closer together and ensure those kind of fun and exciting finishes. And actually, the twist decks are just two of the decks of cards that you get. The other two are each player will have a deck of tactics cards. So these tactics decks introduce two concepts that will be familiar to veteran players of Age of Sigmar, which is battle tactics and command abilities. But it does so in a really, really easy to use system. So you're going to have, each player is going to have 3 cards at a time. And at the top half of each card, there's a tactic you can score. Each one is worth 1 point in your turn. You can score all 3 in your turn. So you have these kind of 3 secondary objectives. You're going to be trying to look at the battlefield, figuring out how you could score. And at the bottom half of each card, there's a really powerful command you can use to get that interactivity and counterplay in your opponent's turn. The trick is that if you play that card to use the command, you can't score the tactic on top. So there's a really fun trade-off with each player of, do I want to use the command? Do I want to use the tactic? And maybe if there's a tactic that's difficult to achieve, the command will then be really useful. And so there's a really fun play, and because those change each time you play the game with the ones that you'll have at any given time, it makes each game feel really unique and really special.
Very nice. Well, guys, thank you ever so much for popping in and chatting to us about Spearhead. I, for one, cannot wait to play it again. I've only played one game, but yeah, 100% win rate so far. Don't go anywhere, as we'll be back with some Warhammer Age of Sigmar content right after this. As we all know by now, Age of Sigmar's new edition is on the way, and what a series of reveals and announcements we've had as part of this preview show. Now, I'm back with Jimbo, Matt and Ben from the studio before we wrap up to give you a little overview of what we've seen. So guys, what is part of the Skaven Tide box set?
So this box is absolutely jammed. So first but not least, you get the brand new core book. So 274-page book full of background, bestiary, showcase, all the rules, Path to Glory, and for the first time ever, you also get the General's Handbook included in the launch set in a card format. So it's got your battle tactics, your battle plans, your season rules, everything you need to play the GHB.
Okay. And then, of course, in addition to those books, you get an absolute ton of miniatures. So you're going to get nearly 75 different Citadel miniatures in the box, 2 different armies, the Skaven and the Stormcast Eternals. So on the Skaven side, you've got 40 clan rats. You've got a beautiful new Grey Seer sculpt. It's probably one of my favorite models in the box. Warpwalk Engineer leading 3 Jezzails, or kind of long-range sniper support. You've got 3 brand new Rat Ogres. You've got a rattling Warp Blaster, which is kind of this crazy Scryer war machine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you've got a Claw Lord riding this crazy Gnaw Beast, who's kind of the centerpiece general of the Skaven set. And then on the Stormcast Eternal side, you've got your Lord Vigilant riding a Gryphstalker leading the force, supporting 10 Liberators, 3 Prosecutors, 3 of the Reclusians, who are accompanied by these 2 Memorians to kind of remind them of their humanity. You've got a Lord Terminos, also accompanied by a Memorian. You've got a Lord Veritant with a Gryphcrow, and then you've got your Knight Quester completing that set. So lots of spectacular heroes, lots of spectacular models. 2 really, really exciting forces.
Yeah, a load. And how about some Spearhead stuff as well?
I'll say we're not finished. There's
Yeah,
more.
there's more, yeah.
So yeah, you get everything you need to play Spearhead. You get the Fire and Jade book. You get a double-sided board. So one side is Gyrand, one side is Akshi. 4 pieces of terrain specifically for Spearhead, which is amazing. And then you get the decks of cards you need. So 1 deck for each player, which has the battle tactics and the commands on them. And then you get the twist deck for Akshi and 1 for Gyrand as well. So pretty awesome all round.
Pretty awesome all round. Well, guys, thank you ever so much for doing that for me, because I don't think I would have been able to do all of that on my own. What an amazing offering as well. And thank you for being with us. We hope you've enjoyed it just as much as we have. Before we wrap up, let's check out that fabulous cinematic. And don't forget, if you want to check out any of the reveals that you've seen, head to the Warhammer Community website on warhammercommunity.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on the Warhammer Preview Show.
Sigmar lied. Sigmar told us we were chosen. Warriors, stolen from death. To be reforged as his weapons. The immortal sons and daughters of the Storm God. Sigmar lied. He never told us the true cost of this honor. Soon, all that will remain of me is an echo, lost to the storm. But until that day, I fight.